Take it to the seat.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Cousins?
Here.
Councilmember Fisher?
Yes.
Councilmember Knight? Here. Councilmember Michelle?
Present.
Councilmember Smith?
Here.
Councilmember Chow?
Yes.
Mayor Keo?
Here. We have 3 sets of minutes to approve this evening. One from our regular city council meeting on the 23rd, one from the city council work session that preceded the council meeting on the 23rd, and one from our city council work session budget review on May 2nd. I'll give you the first chance at comments. I don't have any. Okay, perfect. Ms. Knight?
For the main.
Rest of council, any comments? All those in favor of approving the minutes, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We have no prearranged participation this evening, so we're down to approval of the agenda. There looks like one additional piece of info from item L2.
I move we approve the agenda as presented with the information related to item L2.
Moved by Fisher, second by Smith. Thank you both. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. We have an agenda, no public hearings. We're down to non-arranged participation. Is there anyone in the audience? Yes, please. Please state your name and address, if you would, please.
Hi, Cole Miller at 7654 4th Street. As you all know, I've been here recording for the past since end of November, and it's been great and educational for me, and I feel like the response has been always positive for whoever has had access to the videos, and I would like there to be a broader access to the videos. And while I still plan to come to meetings, it would be much appreciated if the city would purchase video equipment. It would cost very little to have the same setup as I have now, as with the mics that are already set up for audio, to have that video available to the community. I'm willing and hoping to talk to anybody who has questions or concerns. I feel it's simple and something that our peer communities do, and would also relieve for me the guilt that I would feel if I happened to miss a meeting and appear to share. I feel like that's inevitable. I feel like it's inevitable at some point, and I really do feel like it's a good thing to be doing at this point in time for the city council, for the city, and for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak this evening? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to communications. We have 4 communications in the packet. On the upcoming meeting list, our signed calendar, a letter from the City of Escanaba, and a thank you letter from the Dexter Area Historical Society and Museum. Any questions or comments on the communication?
A little discussion about the Escanaba letter.
Sure.
In there, and I don't know whether Justin wants to talk about it or but in the letter, the MML is asking on behalf of the City of Escanaba, looking for financial assistance and being able to work through the tax payment process. And I don't know whether everybody's read this, but some of it makes a lot of sense. And Escanaba not that big a city, so they don't have, unending resources. So I'd like to either have it as an agenda item, for the future to talk about, to consider whether we want to give any type of financial aid to them.
The only reason I didn't frame it that way was just because we've kind of been fighting our own tax tribunal
Right.
thing with statewide implications. If we weren't doing that, I think I'd probably, be a little bit more.
And if it's just a token,
Mhm.
show of support, I think,
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Something.
We can talk
Would you
about it
like to-
Wednesday.
Would you like to propose something? That would be that too?
Yeah,
Maybe talk about
let's
it
talk about it
Wednesday.
on Wednesday. So, and then that's time enough if we decide to go ahead and put on the next agenda.
Yep.
That'd be good. But I encourage anybody who hasn't read it to read the letter.
Yeah, I mean, it was good that they won at the Supreme Court, but then it just remanded it back and they almost start all over again and, yeah,
And
that's
tax
tough.
tribunals tend to
And it could end up going right back through the same process, back up to the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court a second time.
Do we know when this was initiated? Not the letter of case.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I mean, if they've already been to the Supreme Court.
Yeah,
through the
so-
tribunal,
Yeah, I don't remember the date,
it's gotta be 3 years, if not
Darn.
more.
but yeah, we can figure that out for Wednesday. The original filing.
Okay, any more comments or questions on the communications? All right, we'll have down reports. First up, as usual, is our Public Services Superintendent. Dan, how are you?
Good. How are you, Council?
Good.
I have a three-week report for you. A lot of stuff got done in the last 3 weeks, and I also have one update for you. I'd like to start with questions on my report first, please.
Jim? Go ahead.
Okay, toward the bottom of the section, the DPW section, there's reference to the Hudson Street walkthrough, and then met with Chris D. Stormwater Hudson Forest. Just kind of like to hear what that's about.
OHM went and did a walkthrough, initial walkthrough, and then I asked Chris if me and Kurt could go with him the next time. We noticed that there's quite a bit of pitting on this brand new concrete that we got. 5 driveways and there's some curb. I don't know if anybody else has noticed down by on Baker Road, the one radius. So we had a meeting, followed up with that with Dahlman and GM and Sons to come take a look at it. And I think we haven't got anything officially yet from them, but there was some in the mix of the concrete, so we're still working through that. As far as the stormwater, one of the things that we noticed on Forest and Hudson, back towards your house, is many years ago, we used to have problems with that hill on your side. I'm talking 30 years ago. And somehow with the project we've done, we've recreated that problem again. That water is sheeting across the road and going down Forest Street. And we've got a little bit of gravel that's coming out in the grass. So we're working with OHM to see what we can do when the contractor comes back in to resolve that.
Because is that the water that's collected from up top on Hudson? Coming out that new drain?
It's not coming out the new drain.
It's not
It's
coming
on your side of the road. There's no drain.
Okay.
Yep.
Because, with the new dip there, I didn't know whether water would get over that.
Yeah, it seems to be coming down Forest, headed towards Baker and coming back up that dip and hitting that ditch and going down a couple houses. So we're working through the project. Once we get something put together, then I come back to council, but we're trying to work on it. It's not like it used to be. It's not as big a problem as it was 30 years ago, but we're noticing some running 2 houses down.
And kind of too, where the, on that corner, not where the new sidewalk still has to be put in, but on the other one, the corner, they flared out. So it doesn't really have a curb,
Right.
that comes up to that.
What it's doing is it's going along the edge of the roadway there, and then it's cutting over. I mean, it's big rain events. I mean, not huge
Yeah.
rain events, but, decent sized rain events, we're seeing the problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just comment too. You guys may have already caught it too, but up the top of Hudson there at, just before Dexter Ann Arbor Road on the right-hand side, where the mailbox is on that side, there was a couple good potholes on there over the weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Knight?
Yes, excuse me, Dan, on the third page of your report here, sixth bullet from the bottom, you say you cleaned up a floor cleaner mess in the tool room, you had a container that leaked over the weekend.
Yeah, it's a cleaning solution. We bought
Bless you.
pretty good, like 30-gallon tubs of it, and somehow it got a crack in the bottom of it. We contained it all. I mean, there's containment there. We just had to clean it up.
But so there was nothing that leaked into any of our systems or anything that
And
you're concerned about?
It's friendly stuff.
Thank you.
Raise your hand up.
No, sorry.
Paul?
I understood there was a leak in the basement of the new, I guess we'll call it the Encore Theater space there. Is that, was that reported to you, or was it?
Yes, it was reported to me.
Was it anything that we had to do with it, or it was just that there was a clogged
They had a clog in their sewer.
system there? Okay.
And then everybody stays upstairs and nobody goes in the basement.
Right.
People that are coming in there are just,
Right.
staying there for a short period of time. So when every time they flushed or did dishes or anything, it came up in the basement.
Right.
I met with Ann
Yes.
on site, and I gave her a list of 5 or 6 contractors. She chose Tom Peltz, and I helped her and Tom through the whole process.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that.
Dan, how many residents do we have?
We always get this kind of service from our municipalities.
How many residents do we have running water during the wintertime? So the services don't freeze? I'm just kind of curious, when you said you got notified that they could stop running the
I
water.
believe 5 at the most, Yeah. We had a couple winters there, and it's a lot cheaper, I think, it's a lot cheaper for us to let that run and drip than it is to pay the money that we were paying with all them lines out, let alone trying to replace them if they actually break. That's the big thing, because most of them are right under, one of them's under Baker Road.
Just curious, how far did somebody have to go to retrieve the fire hydrant?
About 15, 20 feet. Yeah. And we ran it over and it kind of,
There's a road commission joke there
So was-
somewhere.
is that a road commission, Joe?
It's a lot of tree.
So we turned into our insurance rather than,
I turned it into State Farm because it was under our deductible. I already got the check.
We had a breakaway hydrant there, was good, so not just broke.
I didn't know whether anything for the person that did it.
That's why I turned it into State Farm, their insurance.
Oh,
Yep.
it's there, okay.
Fire
It was,
department.
we have a $1,000 deductible on property damage.
Right.
So, and it was $600 worth of damage.
Okay.
So they've already paid it
All
back.
right.
Fire
Good.
department and the police notify us, and we were right out there on site. Got all
It was
that.
basically staff time and a $250 repair kit.
Okay, good.
I don't know if you've been noticing Grandview, Baker and Grand, they've got all the pipe and everything that you could ever want over the complex. I don't know if you noticed over the weekend, they got in the road on Baker Road. I made them come in Saturday to put steel plates over the hole, which I asked them to do on Friday, but it must be cheaper to do it on Saturday, I guess. So they put a sewer manhole in there, is what they did, so they're gonna run that. That'll be one stretch of the sewer that goes behind the condos there. Today, they were in there doing a jumper line that they're gonna use here in the future when they put their water main in. And then I'm hoping tomorrow, from what they were telling me, they're gonna be on the corner of Grand and Baker tapping into one of our sewer manholes. So that sewer line will go back behind where Lon Fontaine had all the cars, swing back around, come down Grand and back down to Baker there. So they'll have hopefully a lane shift tomorrow to do that. And hopefully they're bringing asphalt in or bubble gum or something to stick it in there.
Yeah, they're bringing full patch tomorrow.
Other than that, oh,
But it looked like they had a bunch of, a mud mat there, but there's still a whole bunch of dirt got tracked into Baker at least. are we making them, I'm not sure who's the best to answer this, are we making them street sweep that or pay for us to sweep?
We work through Washington County soil erosion, but we keep on as best as we can. I'm wondering, do you think that had anything to do with them having the hole not plated with gravel?
This was Saturday when I went in.
Yeah.
It looked like it was tracking from the site,
Okay.
like the heavy equipment was taking it out.
Because once they didn't put the plates or the bubble gum or asphalt down, it tracked it up a little bit.
Looks nice without the building there.
It does, doesn't it?
Is it gone all the way now?
I was just
No.
shocked that they would have done that in the first place, but that's my opinion. That's all I can say.
Well, it looked like later in the day, after the lightning subsided, they were back in there trying to separate the metal, so hopefully the piles will be gone here pretty quick.
Yeah, they were cutting it down, and one of them shears,
Did you watch that in action?
yeah, they were just snapping them I-beams like nothing.
I mean, huge I-beams, just like paper. Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Up next is our Community Development Manager. Michelle, how are you?
I'm fine. How's council tonight?
Good.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, you have my report in front of you, and I know it was kind of a long one, so I'll try not to go into too much detail. But before I start, do you have any questions for me? Okay, so in regards to the master plan update, I am meeting with Megan tomorrow so that we can prep for the next joint meeting, which will be June 4th, before the planning commission meeting. Sean and Paul, I know you weren't able to make the last meeting. Any comments, questions you have on the materials that you did have? I think, Sean, you did give me some things which I passed on to Megan. Paul, if you've got anything, please let me know.
I will give you sort of a
Okay. Excuse me. So in regards to my third quarter review, you might have noticed that there's now a little table for Grandview Commons. It identifies how many units are in the first phase, and we'll be tracking, just like we did for the other developments, how many units are sold at any given time. How did we have it? So preliminary zoning compliance, final zoning compliance, and the units that haven't sold yet. So far, there are 8 preliminary zoning compliance. Those are the duplexes. My understanding is they're getting a lot of traffic via their website. It's a very nice website that they have. So they've got a lot of, they're generating a lot of interest. The 150 Jeffords project will most likely be added to your the fourth quarter report when it comes out. By that time, I expect that the planned unit development agreement will have been signed, the master deed and bylaws will be recorded, and they will be under construction. So we'll add it at that point. I met with with representatives of Sonar Plastics. It's a company that's currently in Scioto Township, out off in Jackson Road on Stabler. They are looking, or I should say they're finalizing a purchase of 7275 Joy Road, the old Thompson Shore building. They're going to be purchasing that because they are currently in about a 10,000 square foot space, and they really need to have a bigger space. This will provide them that, plus the opportunity to make a little bit of money by being a landlord for some of the office tenants that are currently there, or more office-like tenants. Excuse me. I don't have any numbers on any kind of job creation. They'll be bringing all their employees over. We'll get more of those numbers shortly. I've sent them a list of the different contacts for everyone from Dan with Public Services regarding public utilities to both Chief Smith and Don Detling for fire inspection. They had questions on that. And then, of course, our water billing and trash service for that Justin takes care of.
I'm sorry, did you say they had looked at a particular property already?
7275 Joy Road.
Oh, okay.
Is that big enough to accommodate what they need and who's already there?
Yes.
Will they? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So no displacement?
Not at this particular moment,
Right.
although there may be some
Could be in
point
the future.
where that could be.
Of course.
So they aren't planning any exterior changes. The amount of interior improvements are very limited, just some minor electrical and water, plumbing. Other than that, nothing. So it's basically just going to be a change of tenant situation. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. 3045 Broad Street Committee is meeting tomorrow. This is the meeting that we're having prior to that fourth community engagement. They're going to have the next step since the scale and massing and density presentation that they had at the third meeting. This kind of gives them an opportunity to bounce off the direction that they're going with the committee, get some feedback before that fourth community engagement. Because it's at the fourth community engagement that there should be consensus, strong consensus on the concept that they're going to go forward with. So it's really exciting. Their whole team will be there. Excuse me. And we'll have an update for you by your next meeting.
And that date has not, the fourth community date has not been
That has
chosen?
not, but it will be in June. We met with the Dexter schools regarding the Creekside ball fields and the high school turf a week and a half ago. That was mainly to go over some continual site plan issues that we've got, mostly storm sewer. They've got quantity of water addressed, but quality was lacking. So that sort of pre-treatment before it leaves the site and ends up out in the creek. So that's taken care of. Plus, they are working with the city through Paul Levinoff on a location, because you remember the school said they want the trail to come out north of Creekside and connect to Baker instead of coming through. We're trying to not have an exact, this is the location and legal description, but have some idea where this could go and have it on the plan so that, God forbid, if anything changed administratively with the schools, it's on a plan. Somebody will know, yeah, this is where it has to be, because it's school property and we're spending a lot of time and we're going through grant application process. You don't want to get to the 11th hour and all of a sudden someone says, oh, I don't recall that. You just don't want to have that. So they were amenable, and so things are moving forward.
Question on that, is the grant application, is that going to be reviewed by the grant people to determine if that's an appropriate space, site, all the above?
So we've already submitted TAP and MDNR trust fund grants.
Right.
I don't think that they are going to review it in the sense of this is an appropriate place, more of whether or not it's an appropriate project overall.
Any other questions? The tree board distributed over 200 seedlings on Friday, April 27th as part of the Arbor Day celebration. There was help from volunteers. We have the tree board. Cindy Haynes, who's a former tree board member, always comes in and helps us get those seedlings prepped. She runs a really tight ship. I really appreciate that at 7 o'clock in the morning. But we also had 2 volunteers this year from TFC Bank. 2 of their employees called and asked if they could participate. And so we gladly put them to work. And it was really nice to have them. I met with a young Boy Scout last week. His name is Brady Wheeler. He was working on a merit badge project for Scouting Heritage. He wanted to talk about parking, or the problem with parking in downtown. And we had a very, very good discussion. I gave him a copy of the plan. And it was very interesting. He was very sincere. And I asked him, what makes you think that there's a problem with parking in the downtown? And he said, well, when I go to karate, we can't find a parking space. And he said, well, where do you try and park? Right in front of the studio. So it led to a really good discussion. We had a lot of fun with it. His grandma was there. And he wanted to know what could young people do to help the city, to help address this? I said, well, obviously parking not just on Main, but feeling comfortable walking a little ways to get to where you want to go instead of just parking right in front. And then he mentioned something about that sometimes he bikes to his karate class. They said that's another way that students or young people could help. You don't always have to be in a car. You can drive, give grandma or your mom a rest, and and he liked that. So it was pretty cool meeting with him.
Your best advice would ever buy a car.
I couldn't go that far. I mean,
It's gonna be obsolete here anyway.
probably, but
Here.
yeah.
Here,
Yeah.
And maybe this is a little sexist, but he is a young boy who probably will want a car someday. And who am I to rain on his parade? So.
I'm going to ask a question on Matt's behalf. Where's the closest bike rack? To right there center of downtown.
I think they're called trees.
There actually is one at the,
There's a clock tower.
Need a big
actually,
change.
there's quite a few of them right next to the bakery across the street.
That's the closest.
So. Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question on 150 Jeffords. I see they're still submitting.
Yes, they submitted their documents back in your first meeting in February, if I remember right. You did conditional approval of a variety of documents after the approval of the final plan. So now they're finally coming back with those documents addressing the recommendations in the different consultants' letters. And we're just making sure that what they brought in has addressed all of that properly. And I would say probably, if I had to make a guess, within the next 2 weeks, 3 at the top, we'll be signing those different agreements and recording master deed bylaws. Once they do that, then it's preliminary zoning compliance time and a pre-con and building department.
You should just hold off till after August. I mean, good grief.
According to Natalie, I think she said they've got 6 reservations, 6 or 8 reservations. So.
What do you mean?
Good.
Sold. Interesting.
Well, I don't know if, I'm not using the word sold because technically they can't, I don't think they can start to take money until they've recorded the master deed. So she used the word reservation, and so I can't presume to know if it means sold or, but it sounded pretty good.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what's gonna happen back there when, I've already seen them advertised on real estate.
Fortunately, it won't start before Dexter and Arbor Road reopens at this
That's
point,
real
so
Correct.
that's
It'll just be
It'll
one
be
big
acre.
It'd be nice if the baker would be done too.
good. Yeah, well, that won't be till September,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
just have to be patient.
Patient,
Anything else? Oh, we did send the RRC comments, my comments, Sean had provided some comments, sent them back. They sent us a lovely email that they would love to meet with us either up in Lansing or they'll come here to talk with us. So
What's that,
I
ready
knew that was.
community?
February is probably for that.
Isn't it ready community?
So we'll probably be meeting with them in the next, couple of weeks, maybe into June. So I know you're looking forward to that one. Thank you all.
Okay. Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate all the information and good work. I believe we are down to city manager report. Courtney?
Let's see. So our bond got affirmed at AA, which was good news. That should help our bond sale. The DTE agreement was signed for the removal of the substation, so that was really good news because we could actually move forward on that. The ASTI has given me a week when they can be available to do during our due diligence period. We have to do some soil samples on DTE's property, so I'm going to try to get that scheduled this week. just need to figure out who a DTE is gonna handle access. I got an email from Father Brendan at the church asking if the city was would be interested in the property at Dover and 3rd Street, potentially for a fire station. So I asked him generally how much property they would sell. The whole site is 1.8 acres, but I'm assuming, I don't know if they want to sell the church proper. And then I asked, the timeline thinking that they were thinking, so he didn't respond to that yet, but anyway, he sent that out.
What's that, the school?
Yeah, they own that entire block,
Right.
basically. Or to the alley.
Well, just past that alley.
Yeah. So, Dan, I don't know if you had updates on the 3173 Baker or the Elastisel sinkhole.
The what something?
The Elastisel sinkhole or 3173 Baker.
I'm drawing a blank on 3170.
That's the bike shop,
Oh,
water main, the water line.
we got what I was talking about earlier with the frozen line. We thawed it and we had to dig it up next to the sidewalk to dig up the curb box just to thaw the line out. Well, on our side is copper, on his side is galvanized. So inside, we went in to change his meter out because the new owner just purchased the property and we could hear a hissing noise, which means there's a leak. We went to hit the shut off outside and it cranked it almost all the way off, which kind of tells me it might be under the road, but we don't know for sure. Well, 2 days later, it started coming up on his side of the sidewalk, the leak. So we've got two quotes back right now. We're working with the new business owner of the bike shop. So when we go in there and dig, if it's on our side, we'll know what we got to do. If it's on his side, he wants a new line brought in, that obviously that he would have to pay for. So we're trying to get one more bid, is what we're trying to do for that project, because right now, obviously, we can't dig a trench across Baker Road, so it's going to be a little bit, I don't know if it's going to be more expensive, but they're going to have to bore underneath the road if it is our water line and not trench, because obviously we don't have too many ways in and out of Dexter.
The scenic route is through town to Bushes and then down Dan Hoy and then around.
I guess we could just put one way, or head them down Jeffords, right? When they come through.
It's being done now.
And
So
the Elastisel,
Pardon me?
the 2nd Street sinkhole.
Oh, we found a sinkhole next to, you know where the building is next to the car wash?
That old one?
They make like concrete, cinder
Yes.
blocks and everything. There's a sinkhole just on the outside of their building and
In the front?
on the side, actually. We got 2 transmission mains that run to the DPW right there. But I believe, I'm working with Patrick, I believe it's outside of our easement. It's pretty close to their building, actually. We dug some asphalt, me and Chris Donikowski did, and I started probing, and I felt something we dug down, and I don't know, there's a piece of wood down there that looks real similar to the water main, the wood water main we found on the other side, but it's really close to the building. Actually, one of the operators there brought out a drill bit, and I drilled through it to see if there was a void like a water main. I'm not sure if it's just a log, but anyway, we're working through the process with that. When I brought the 2 people in to give us the bid on Baker Road for the service line, I had them go over there and give me a bid just in case it is in our easement, so we can get that sinkhole fixed. So right now, they put some flowable fill in there for right now as we work through the process. But one of the things is all their downspouts come down right there too, and that can cause a little bit of havoc in good soil.
Well, after this rain.
Right.
Wooden water pipes?
Yeah, we found wooden water main when we were excavating for the border trail on Central. There's some in that area.
Actually, I cut a piece out. I got the 4-foot section of where they came.
It can go with my brick from the,
Hand drilled. And then they whittled down the one end and stuffed it in, and it looked like it had tar around it, actually.
Wow.
Could be wrong. It's pretty cool, actually.
Is that up at the museum?
Actually, it's down in my office. It could go there.
send it to the state, see if there's code.
Drying out.
Well, it's dry now, yeah.
Tell them you found that up in Flint. See who we get down here.
So the only other thing is the sidewalk project, and we're hoping the contractor comes in this week, at least start marking things. I think he was delayed because of the rain at another project. The crack sealing is also supposed to start next week, hopefully on the 21st. So I'll put that out in the email update once we have those dates confirmed. We actually know they're gonna show up. Bids came back for the roundabout project. They came in at, basically at the engineer's estimate, which was good. That's about it.
Questions for Courtney?
So when you said the sidewalk, right, you're talking about on Hudson with the repairs, is that?
That and our just regular remove and replace and intersection.
And is that the repairs in front of the mailbox and everything that we're
Yeah.
talking about there? So the question I have there, when you look at the sidewalks there, that the little extensions that they put out when they did that, one of them angles, the one's going up the hill on the, I guess, the east side, it angles towards a house, and the other one is very close to the house that Gary lives in, Mr. Greenfield lives in. Is there any consideration when they do that to put those back inside the lines like they have been further up the road there, inside the telephone poles, instead of having it very off like it does there? I mean, it didn't make any sense at all what they did there to,
Yeah, I'm not
even
sure
under our
what you're
engineering
talking
standards
about.
that I pick up, okay?
The only sidewalk that's supposed to get corrected is the one that's not there right now. And then the stuff that Doan or GM and Sons is gonna do because it's pitted, but there's no more design changes to Hudson.
I mean, I think in the future, there's obviously gonna have to be some alignment changes there, Paul, because I mean, kind of like Second Street, we kind of, right, handed our way around different things, you know.
Well, we're trying to avoid when those roads, when those sidewalks go in, similar things that we had on Edison when we had that process.
Well, we
But
had
the
another
engineering
project-
stand, so I guess my question is, maybe the court, is the engineering stand, are they still saying that they're 1 foot inside the right of way?
Yeah.
So why do we have an engineering stand there when we know that causes problems?
Well, it says 1 foot in the right of way, but we're allowed to meander around existing obstacles. So if there's a tree or a bush or whatever, we're allowed to move around it. But the basic plan is 1 foot off the right of way unless
If that's-
there's a reason not to because of an existing
Yeah,
condition.
The more recent example of success with this, though, is what Dan mentioned on Second and Hudson.
Right.
Second and Hudson, we added sidewalk down to the condo, from the condos.
That goes all the way to the condos. On the
There's all
right
the condos on the, yeah, on the right-hand side.
hand side, on the across from it.
Right, and then we added it on Second, and the process included drawing up preliminary alignment and meeting with every resident. Dan was very instrumental in a lot of those conversations.
I know all about it.
And then, you know, the residents provided comment to it. I mean, and if it was clear along the right of way, there's really no reason why that isn't a good spot, but where it wasn't, you know, we moved it out, and everybody was happy. We even had, I forgot his name, the teacher.
Yeah.
Turner came and he's so proud of his sidewalk. I mean, he's come
Jim
twice.
McCarter.
Jim McCarter, yeah.
Right. So I guess my point was is that the house that's on the corner of excuse me, down your street.
Inverness.
Oh, Inverness.
Inverness.
Yeah.
In Inverness and Forest there. They had put a new sidewalk in, they had already one down on the one side, they had put a new one in. That was put in on the inside of between the road and the telephone poles, okay? And it's way away from the property line, okay? Way inside the property line, okay? Talking to those people, I don't think they had any discussion at all. It was just decided that that's where it was gonna be, and they had to put it in there, okay? Now, if you follow that same philosophy down at the bottom of Hudson, and that doesn't even match even close to what that is, okay? That philosophy. It takes it way inside the telephone poles and angles towards the house. And it doesn't, it's not my crooked eye or anything else that does that. You can stand and see it. I can stand
Where are you? Which corner, where are you?
I'm on the, if I'm looking up the hill, I'm on the left corner here, okay?
Looking up the hill towards your house?
Toward our house,
Okay.
our house, okay?
Okay.
All right?
Yep.
So I can stand on the sidewalk between the road and the sidewalk that comes across there, okay? I can stand there and I can look up the hill and see that sidewalk that's up the hill on Inverness and Forest. This other sidewalk is at least 15 feet to this side of it and angled towards the house.
Yeah, but it won't be when it finally goes, Paul, it'll come off of where it is, and it'll come out and avoid all the bushes and shrubs. I mean, this is the same argument, I met with Mary Ann Miller on this months ago, and she had the same question. I mean, nobody's gonna put it right through where there's existing trees. I mean, there needs to be space. I'm not trying to encourage residents to put, plant trees in such a pattern so it makes it difficult, because at some point in time, something's gonna give. I mean, if we need to have a sidewalk, but there's adequate space to put a sidewalk along there. It may, I mean, don't take the alignment that it's there as perfect. In the future, it'll come where the most logical spot is.
And that is an excellent answer right now. But the question is, why was it even placed there in the first place like that? And why would we put something like that when it didn't even match anything at all from the other sidewalk? Why would you even think about putting it there? Either one of those, okay? Or the one that goes by Greenfield.
Right away, because there wasn't a reason not to.
There it is.
Because we had to follow the engineering standards when we were doing the design.
There wasn't a reason
wasn't a
not to
reason
put the
not to.
corner there, Paul. I mean, the corner works fine, it's all, I mean, it's not.
I got that, the corner works fine, but then what you did was put a extension beyond that corner.
What, 2 flags?
No, it's longer than 2 flags.
4 flags?
Well, probably 4. Yeah.
But
Well, we have to have
the
a
question is,
landing.
is it harming anything?
Not now, but I guess the question is, why would you do
What's
that
the
in the
issue?
first place? Why would you do it in the first place, I guess is my question.
I can't answer that any more than to say that we followed the engineering standards at that time.
Last comment, we know what engineering standards get on Edison Street.
They got us nowhere.
Has a lot of hassle.
But it wasn't just the engineering standards that was the problem, Paul. Courtney, still your report?
I don't think I have anything else. Anybody has any questions?
Okay. We need to set our next facility workshop. I had mentioned either the 29th or June 11th. I'm happy to do the 29th. I will want to call out that Courtney's not here next week, so if there's anything that needs to be prepared in advance for that, I guess that would fall to Justin or somebody else to do if it was the 29th. Is everybody open on the 29th?
29th is a Tuesday.
29th is a Tuesday, it's the day after
I can do
Memorial
that.
Day.
I don't expect we'll have anything.
That's our
back
next
from
meeting
David at that point.
date, right?
We won't have, I thought the
Yeah.
schedule said we're gonna have it back by then.
No, it was the 11th. We scheduled for the...
Yep.
The schedule we saw last night. When we approved this
I think
thing?
this is a council
I thought
meeting,
so,
Sean. Isn't it?
Yeah,
Because
it
of
is.
Memorial Day?
Yes.
So we can't, you're already saying have it prior to?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
I'm in for that.
Well, I can have him provide wherever he's at with it, but I thought that
Oh,
the
maybe I
schedule went out
forgot.
further than that.
I think Courtney's right. I didn't write my schedule in,
Would
but
you still want to
He
meet
may,
then?
he may have something done that he could at least show as a draft.
I think we gotta wait till the season.
So you'd rather do it the 11th then?
The 11th's okay with me.
I'm just trying to make sure we're meeting frequent enough. My goal is to have a meeting a month.
What day of the week is the 11th?
Monday. It's just our regular.
Okay.
I would like to see it both, because we've, gotten through, not this last one, it was the time before, where we switched and concentrated on fire hall, and then we didn't get finish the agenda with the rest.
Okay.
And I would like to see us go ahead and talk about the city offices, the DPW stuff, say on the 29th, so that we're giving that consideration, and then plan to go back and talk about fire hall on the 11th.
Okay.
Since we're here, I don't have any problem either one.
Okay, all right, we'll get those scheduled then.
And
Thank
if you want anything specific for that meeting,
For the 29th.
yeah, let
you
us know as
this
soon
then.
as possible, probably this week.
I think if
Otherwise-
there's any update, that'd be great.
from David, just that you, just
Yeah.
kind of where he's
Yeah,
at.
we can do that.
Okay.
Otherwise, I don't know that there will be too much to add to where we left it off the last time on city offices.
How many meetings have you had with the fire
One.
and police? One?
Just one. I think we meet again this Thursday.
And those are at 5:30, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Thank you.
I threw a blurb in here on the traffic congestion during the road improvements. I just was curious. I received only one email from somebody on Well, it started off bad. I mean, she was on it at like 8:35 in the morning on the first day. But the next day she sent a note that said she left 15 minutes early and went a different route and everything was fine. But I just wondered, anybody hearing anything? The first day, you also had, I think it was the county, out on the bridge over 94.
Yeah, they had it down to one.
They had down to just 2 lanes.
On Baker?
Yeah, Baker and 94.
On Baker and 94. And so a lot of people said that really, because it backed things up toward town.
Well, we didn't even know about that.
But just for one day, right?
Yeah,
Just
but
one
that's why the first day was
Yeah, I heard that.
exceptionally bad.
Okay. And it seems like it's worked its way out a little bit anyway.
When I went out there in the evening, at about 5:30, and I saw all the traffic was backed up from the freeway all the way into town, and then I looked as I got on 94 going east, and saw it backed up even onto the right lane there.
I didn't realize the county was there too.
It was.
Yeah, MDOT, or I think it might have even been MDOT
Yeah,
that was working on
something.
the bridge.
It was a county around that, you're right.
Yeah.
But it was totally,
I don't know whether they were
Playing
replacing
tomorrow.
some concrete.
It was just a day.
But since then, it seems like the people have figured out different ways.
Well, they also have it there on Baker down to the lane where they were flagging too, because that was down to one lane for a while.
Gotcha, gotcha.
When they were potholing, yeah. And
And
then
they
the,
were helping people get out.
at the end of, what day was it? Wednesday or Thursday of last week, the road commission was doing pavement markings on Dexter, Chelsea, and Parker, so. It was, yeah. Kurt called me, he's laughing, because what are you gonna do, right?
Reminder that we have our second budget workshop this Wednesday at 6 o'clock at the library. And then I wanted to thank our pro tem, Ray, is going to do the welcome at the Memorial Day parade ceremony.
I'm shaving everything.
Wow, so that should draw you all
Who
in.
he is.
It's even better.
That's good.
Yes, it is that
Thank
time
you
of
for
year.
helping cover that for me, I appreciate it very much. Does anybody have any questions for me? You'll see some appointment recommendations here coming up. Won't be on the 29th, probably the first meeting in June. Mostly reappointments, it's that time of year. Okay, go on to consent agenda?
Yeah, I move to approve the 3 items listed on the consent agenda, bills and payroll in the amount of $579,420.99, setting a public hearing for water and sewer rates ordinance, and the setting of a public hearing for the 1819 millage rate and budget.
Second. Motion by Fisher, second by Smith. Thank you both. Can you tell it's bond time?
Yeah.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, excellent. We have no old business, so we're down to new business. Item L1, discussion of Housing Committee. I will turn this over to Councilmember Michelle to prepare the memo.
All right.
And have the idea.
So, this is the quick version of it, didn't get into too many nuts and bolts. The idea is to stimulate some discussion. As we know, housing is getting trickier and trickier in our community, and we're getting less and less areas to do it. So the idea is that we look at it, at projects with purpose and with goals. And so the first part is we need to survey the conditions, which includes looking at existing information, gathering input from the experts on the ground, figuring out exactly how many dual units we've got, all those types of things. And then preparing potential options for us so that we can be on the front edge. So that, for example, if one of the things come out of it is, what if this building were to be converted to residential? So I'm not saying that's going to be a solution, but so that this group would prepare options for that, so that instead of like with the live-work issue with the or with the housing for the theater, that we are able to consider that before someone comes in with a plan to do the type of conversion, so they're able to think about that ahead of time. As I mentioned in here, Chelsea has got one of these. They've got 7 members on it. And we want to have someone from council, someone from planning commission, maybe 2 of each, and then a couple of folks from the representative communities, like realtors, although they can come in as expert groups, and then some at-large folks. I did mention in here that 12 months is probably very ambitious. I think there are a lot of resources available to us to get it done very quickly, though. I like to call it committee on a hot beach, or playing volleyball on a hot beach, where you just keep going, you try to get it done quickly. So a couple of resources, the intern, University of Michigan has a lot of housing research and other resources that we can tap into. So that's my spiel to start with the consideration, or with the discussion.
Paul?
Well, I think it's certainly timely, in fact. I appreciate you bringing it forward to us. If you haven't heard, there's quite a meeting tonight in Ann Arbor, and the City Council had discussing this very same thing, where they're actually talking about purchasing property or having property designated for this type of thing, and they're even talking about the potential of a dedicated millage for this type of thing. I don't know what will come out of it here, but you know, there was a discussion at one time of Faith in Action participating in this type of thing, and maybe buying a piece of property up there in Danwood, and they're working with Avalon Housing. I know Chelsea has had just recently a unit over there that they've done. They work with Avalon Housing over there. You mentioned this building. It would be appropriate also to think about the one that we just had thrown at us by the Catholic Church as a possibility there. So there's a lot of potential for these types of things that we have here. I would be in support of this ad hoc committee, and hopefully we'll see some fruition to it, where we generate housing that would be appropriate for people on low income, and that it would be in addition to the community that for housing of people that work in an industrial park or downtown or anywhere, restaurants. You can't make a living and buy a house on a Western Ridge. One of the biggest problems the schools have right now is the same thing. They can't find housing for their teachers. So I support this, and I think that your outline of starting and moving forward is the right way to go. I vote for it.
It's only a discussion item.
I know. I vote for it when it comes time.
Good comments. Other thoughts? Well, if, is there any objection? Maybe I could work with Councilmember Michelle's to recommend a committee? Would that be okay?
Bring it to us next meeting.
And bring it back? Yeah. I mean, if it's not, the next meeting will be the following, but
Yeah,
on Zoom.
Soon.
Soon. Sound like a good next step?
Yeah.
Yes.
Would you want to create that by resolution like we did ACH? You think then? I mean, create the committee by
Yeah.
resolution?
Something like that, yeah.
You're talking about like any of the rest of it.
You guys
That would be
figure it
okay. Yeah.
Figure out what's best.
Yeah, we'll make a recommendation and I'll do that.
I mean, they're gonna gather and present. I don't know if there's any, I can't say what's gonna happen if it, you know, we may not act on it, we may just use it for
That's right,
information.
it's fact finding and interest generating right now.
I can think of 100 things to throw out there right now, but they're immaterial to the formation of those committees, so.
And so the idea is that there are cities that have standing housing commissions or committees.
Understood.
And I don't think we really need that. Let's get in, get the information, get out.
I think that's helpful because I'm also trying to find a basis to protect my opinion, and I really don't have it other than a few feelings and things that I see.
Okay, new business item L2 is consideration of the purchase of a water sewer vehicle in fiscal year 18-19 for an amount not to exceed $34,300.
I make that motion. As recommended by staff.
Second. Motion by Fisher. Second by Smith, thank you.
That's with the Todd Wenzel Buick GMC. On page 61.
One of the other, now, hold it, there's a new memo, can we explain what it is? 'Cause I didn't-
Yeah, so-
I haven't had a chance to read that one.
So the vehicle needs to get purchased. We would like to order it now because it takes time to get it outfitted. And we're in a little bit of a weird situation because GMC is on like a shutdown of making new vehicles. So all we have access to is what's in stock. So we went with the My Deal dealer, which is Todd Wenzel. And then we also asked for a quote from LaFontaine. That's not apples to apples because we have to go with what's in stock. So that's the two. So the biggest difference between the two vehicles is what's in the memo in front of you. It's like a $600 or $700 package that one has, that one doesn't. That's really the difference between the two because the prices from the two are about the same. So I made the recommendation to go with the one that had more features. If council would prefer to go with the one from LaFontaine. You know, the important thing to us is to get this ordered because the one that we're using is
Wore out.
past its useful life, shall we say.
Wore out, okay.
I probably waited too long to act on it, just trying to be responsible to the budget, and I probably should have not done that.
So you say it may not be available?
No,
Oh.
the replacement should have happened sooner. honestly.
Yeah, okay.
But I was trying to wait till next year, and, you know, we're trying to do what we budgeted, so.
What?
I know. So this will help because we can get it early in July and stop using the one that's.
And they're gonna give us $1,000.
Right, which is, strike while that iron's hot.
Do we have a motion yet?
Donna did, yeah.
Oh, okay. And a second?
I just would like to add an anecdote. I had a friend whose dad worked for the state, MDOT, in the eastern Upper Peninsula in the 90s, and they didn't want to have at that time any of their vehicles equipped with air conditioning or compact disc players because they thought it was too decadent or whatever. And so they would get it, and they would actually have to have those things removed because it was standard. So they want to look like they're being thrifty, but they actually spent more money for it.
That sounds like my neighbor here.
Yeah.
That's a good story.
And the main difference between going with LaFontaine, other than the price, is that the,
The stuff on the memo.
Power lines, power
GMC
windows, and
has
different
more.
tires.
Yeah, I didn't get into the tire detail too much, but there is a difference in the tires.
that's tough, because I would like to support our local businesses right here, even though LaFontaine, I know, is huge, and it's not just Dexter, but.
Share your sentiments, Julie.
And to me, it was just getting a vehicle with more features for a lesser price.
The trade-in part is equal, right? They're both
Yeah,
offered.
it's $1,000, yeah, for both, yeah. I'm not even sure how much my dealers actually make off these very low My Deal prices.
Probably one of my favorite ones.
Exactly.
They can probably make more off of it selling it outright. Other than the My Deal.
Okay. Other questions? Okay, please call the vote.
Cousins?
Yes.
Knight?
Yes.
Tell?
God damn it.
And let's not.
Yeah.
let's not-
Yeah, I don't think we can put that in the minutes.
Here.
Fisher?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Keel?
No. New business item L3, discussion of adoption of the 2015 International Fire Code. Who is leading this?
I guess I can.
Thank
So, at the last meeting, the issue of potentially adopting the 2015 International Fire Code was discussed, and the last time we did this was in '06. So what I provided for council, just as sort of a kickoff, was the information the chief had provided to DFD in their packet, in their DFD packet, our current copy of our fire protection ordinance. Then I went through the 2015 code and found the sections that seemed to relate to the changes we had made to the code in 2006, so that at least we had, because in 2006 they had some additions and subtractions, you can see that in there. So I tried to find the equivalent parts of the code in 2015, because I think we at least have to have a conversation about the modifications, since there was some reason why they were made in 2006. So anyway, just get it kicked off. If council's comfortable with moving forward, we could set the public hearing at the next meeting. Set the public hearing at the next meeting for a future meeting, so it's not any sort of rush. This is just a sort of a kickoff, to get the information out there. Again, no one's looked at this since 2006, so that was before I was even here. If you can imagine that.
Put it on the agenda.
To set the public hearing, yeah, and then we can, staff needs time to look through and have discussions about,
Has to be adopted by the public.
or by ordinance. It has to be adopted by ordinance.
By ordinance?
Yeah, so we would set the public hearing for probably the second meeting in June, would be a month out, and then take public comment, and then council could vote. But since it's a lot, the code is like, what, 570 pages, and I went through that thing like twice, right? I found an online copy, thanks to like the University of Arizona who posted it online, and that was how I pulled out each individual section, but I certainly wasn't gonna be providing 575 pages to everybody.
So Courtney, give me an example of something, like there's stuff highlighted in yellow, there's black lines.
Well,
on the
all of
sides,
that's the
everything.
Chief's item, that was in the DAFD packet. So my stuff starts,
Okay, but that's the 15 code, right?
yeah, so my stuff starts on page 100, that's our city ordinance currently. And then following that, for example, it says, section 103.2, they appointment of code official at the beginning of subsection, insert this. Well, 103.2 is on page 104, and you can see where it's appointment. And so in this, it would have added that language. So you have to start with the ordinance, and then each section has a different, you just have to follow by, because each of our ordinance references the section. Now, not all of them correspond, but they're all here. Some of them have a different number. So, it takes a little bit of effort too. But there's not like a really simple way to
Courtney, I might
do it.
be able to help you step through that if I may.
Right, yeah.
So the page 100 is what we currently have, right?
Correct. This is our current ordinance based on 2003. So I tried to find the equivalent 2015 section that addressed the section that we chose to change.
Okay. And how many of those sections are there?
7, no,
That were changed?
29, ish. Some of them are in the same appendix, but there's
Okay.
29 changes.
Gotcha, all 29 of these were changes, okay.
Correct. And then at the end, it goes into the 2016 life safety code, and I'm not sure that's for existing buildings and the NFPA is for new buildings, or I forget what the,
I wasn't here when you did it the last time, and there was a lot of things that really didn't need to be done and shouldn't be done, but life safety code is one of those that is automatically adopted. It's life safety code 101, it's an NFPA standard, and the life safety code applies to all buildings that are built, and if they make a change to that code, then structures need to, all new structures need to be brought up to that standard. Existing structures that are in certain degrees of deviation from the new code may have to upgrade their structure. For instance, if all fire doors go from being 18 inches, or excuse me, 24 inches wide to being 30 inches wide, then everybody has to make an attempt to come up to the new code.
like if they do a project, you mean?
Yes, when they modify the
When
code.
they modify.
Yep. So that's the life safety code, but I could step through this from the very beginning and talk to these documents. I didn't realize you were gonna provide them, so, but I'm thank you for getting it on the table, but the stuff that I presented to DAFD needs to change a little bit for your folks, and if you have a couple minutes, I can walk through this real quick, if that's okay, Frank?
Sure.
Okay. First, absolutely right regarding the fire code. In Michigan, the state adopts all the building codes, and they do it on a periodic basis. The building codes are reviewed every 3 years. State of Michigan looks at it, and then they put their name on it and say, okay, everybody that's building from this day forward has to build to this standard. What the state has not done, for some reason, is adopted the fire code throughout the state. They leave it to the municipalities to do that. So we get this huge disconnect. Right now, the state's on the 2015 building code. The Dexter City is using the 2003 fire code, which doesn't match up. And we actually have the 2 townships that don't have any code adopted. So they're kind of out there, we don't always know what to do. So that's why we have to adopt this code, or at least look at adopting it. Otherwise, you can get contractors that simply go by the building code, and then we go out and when we inspect the building or do a final inspection on it, we may not give them a certificate of occupancy because they don't meet the fire code. So you could get some real disconnects and cost issues out there regarding that. So it is important that we bring them in line so that we can enforce them effectively. So starting with your, it's hard to see, page 76 of what you have there, this is the draft legislation that I proposed to the Dexter Fire Board. Pardon the typo at the very top. It's not 2105, it should have been 2015. This was a resolution for the Dexter Fire Board to adopt a fire code in a very specific description, and that was that if another municipality does not adopt a fire code, the 2015 code would be what we're going to apply across our response area to do our inspections and give people advice and things like that. So didn't want to take away the right of any municipality to adopt their own fire code, but we need something to go by in DAFD. So it had the fire board adopted this, it would not have impacted the city because you've already adopted the 2003 code. So then the process went on to say that, you know, what does all of this involve? What's in the new 2015 code? This is the 2003 code that you're in now. This is the 2015 code. There are some subtle differences in it, but remember that from 2003 to 2015, there's been 4 updates to the code. And so there are some changes throughout here. Nothing really major, but there are some changes. So with that, the fire board had a lot of questions about what's in the new code and what all of these suggestions mean in sections 2 and 3, where you have to actually put your own language in. So the remainder of those documents all the way up to page 100 are simply excerpts from the 2015 code so that everybody knew what the chapters are completely different than they were in 2003. The language on some of the amendments is different. The way it's laid out is different. One thing that hasn't changed is that it still gives you the opportunity to make some determinations. So back on page 76, really looking at section 2, where the following sections in the material I gave to the DAFD, those sections are the punitive sections, the permit sections, where you determine what your penalty is going to be, a civil infraction, or what the fine is going to be for not adhering to the code. So there's some leeway to be put in there. Section 3 talks about geographical location of certain hazardous materials, particularly flammable, combustible materials. Section 604, I believe, is about some plastics. So there's some things that we have to look at in the city and make those recommendations in there. This legislation that was provided is what comes right out of the front of the 2015 book for a municipality to be able to adopt. It makes it very easy for you to adopt this regulation. What occurred here in Dexter City back in 2006, when Courtney talks about 29 different amendments, and that's your chapter 19, your fire protection ordinance, there was a lot of other things that somebody felt were important enough to change here in the municipality or add some language to it. I highly recommend against doing that. I'm not going to say you can't, but when you make a change to a federal code or a national code, excuse me, a nationally recognized code, you buy ownership into that code, and if something goes wrong because of an amendment you put in, then you could very well face some litigation, no different than we always have. But if you're going to say that this council has more knowledge about fire protection than the International Fire Code or the NFPA, that's a pretty good stretch, and you probably won't win very well in court if you start making those adjustments. So, not saying you can't, but I highly discourage it. So I would recommend at this point that, and the final thing is, Courtney's absolutely right. One of the reasons that I pulled this in here, I said, wait a minute, the city's, your references from chapter 19, and then the material you put in there was the 2015, it doesn't match up. So all of these areas where you made changes, I actually pulled the 2003 code and went and looked, and I said, yeah, I can understand why they did that. If you want to do that again, we'll have to do that paragraph by paragraph.
Well, I did read it. I didn't just pull the sections. I read it and matched them up so that they were the right topics.
Yeah, they're the right topics, they're just not quite in the same place. There was a few changes that were different there. But in the 2015, you're gonna have to go through those paragraph by paragraph and see if it makes sense to you. And I'll be glad to help on that if there's a couple of people on the board that want to challenge it. The more changes you want to investigate and look at, the more possibility there is for litigation and things of that nature. So I would be very, very careful with that. If you need the 2003 code to be able to look at how that was worded back then versus how it's worded today, I can make that available to you too. So whatever support you need, I'm really happy that you're looking at this.
One of the ones I know, Chief, that I wanted to ask about was, this one has a specific section on like fire protection water supplies, which, we have our own standards and water supply sections. So like that was one that the city removed from the ordinance in 2003 or in 2006 when they did it. So, that would be one that we would need to look at, because if it's different than what we require now, I'm not sure we want to change what we're doing to match this, so.
And honestly, that was one that really piqued my attention, because the water supply standards that are contained in the building codes in IFC, you start deviating from that and somebody burns their building down and you're really going to have issues. And so I would look at that very carefully. My inspector's done the same thing. Well, the city's water standards, that's a real tough issue if the city start putting in different standards than what the federal code makers are doing. So I agree, we need to look at that. There were some references in there to dry hydrants. There was no need for that because there's already an NFPA standard that was referenced by the IFC. So
I don't think we have them in the city anyway, right?
No.
That's a township thing.
One of the other ones that was brought to my attention was the Knox box issue, is that the city, my inspector at the time, was telling everybody they have to get a Knox box. Well, the code doesn't say that. The code says you have to get a secure box. And a secure box, there's several companies out there that make it. And when you start telling these businesses that they can only get Knox boxes because that's what the city wants, the city might end up paying for Knox boxes, or the difference between the Knox box and the secure box. What's that price difference? Because you've took away competitive bidding and pricing.
But that doesn't create a problem when you actually go and then you're opening up 4 different types of boxes? I mean,
no, it's one key opens all Knox boxes, another key opens up all the secure boxes. That's just a training issue. There's only 2 or 3 companies out there that make them.
Because I mean, we have like certain brands of, we try to stick with one brand of hydrant and one brand of things in the city, just so we don't have.
Sure, and I would make that recommendation to them is, hey, this is what's going to work best and most efficient. And I would push them that way, but I'm not going to write it in code and then have them say, hey, I could have got a box at $50 cheaper if I went with this other company, and so you guys need to pay the difference between that. So.
Well, but as to Manager Nichols' point, that's the compelling governmental purpose, that we want to make sure there's just one device, that there's no confusion, that folks know the key.
As I said, I'll only make the recommendation.
Yep.
Well, like the Board of Appeals one, we're just deciding which board hears it, as opposed to, I mean, some of these ask us to choose.
Right, some of them, right, you do.
Are clarifying because they ask us to choose.
Right, you do have to fill in a few of them.
The Board of Appeals one is interesting because we don't really have a Board of Appeals here. The language I believe you put in was that it would be appealed to the Washtenaw County Board. In the one spot in this recommended adoption is you can adopt certain appendixes, A through L. And the very first appendix does cover the Board of Appeals, and if you don't adopt that appendix, then you don't need to set up your own Board of Appeals. You can allow the county to do it. But then again, remember, when the county building authority does it, they're generally looking at the building code and not the fire code.
Which appendix did you say?
Appendix A is the building code, or excuse me,
Oh, sorry, I found
the
it.
appeals. And that didn't change from the 2015. The 2015, it's also appendix A.
Okay. Thought you said L, I'm sorry, I missed that. Okay. Well, I mentioned in my report at the last meeting, or maybe 2 meetings ago, that the goal is to get it in front of you as a draft. Because we did discuss it in our April GAFD meeting, and everybody can take their time and read through it, and we'll bring it back at a future meeting. We'll let you a little bit and get a recommendation. I do think, some of the things that they've worked well in the past, I'm not sure, I guess I'd like to hear a little more from you guys on some of these, but I don't think some of the stuff that we had put in there before is too bad. But then again, I'm open ear to it, so. Okay, move on to aisle 4. Discussion of website request for proposals.
Good evening, council. So we put together a draft RFP for website proposals for you tonight. And basically, we're just looking for feedback before we send it out to the public for proposals.
The thought is to try to get a budget number, or at least a range of budget numbers. Even if we don't make the selection by budget time, at least we know if we're in the ballpark on the budget.
Yeah. And like we said in the memo, I think we have a pretty strong foundation in the current website. There are a few issues that only a new platform would resolve. The former website being built on software that's no longer in operation and is no longer supported, being the kind of most significant of those issues. And so we feel that getting a new platform and using most of the existing structure and importing it into a new format is the best way to go about it.
Thoughts?
One thing that I didn't notice, or at least don't remember noticing in the proposal, is ADA compliance.
It was in there.
Was it? Okay, so I just missed it.
Yeah, it was.
Page 130, Zach, is ADA compliance, the W3C.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I was looking at something else apparently that day.
And also the mobile compliance, or
Yeah.
mobile friendly, whatever they call it. So
I got stuck on the mobile.
a ton of that is right. Yeah, a ton of the stuff is mobile now.
Well, one of the conferences that I went to brought in someone from one of the universities to talk about accessibility in websites, and that was one of the things that I wanted to make sure was in here.
If I may, so my understanding is that this bid is for them to transfer it to a new content management system that has these bells and whistles that we're lacking because we're using 10, 15-year-old software. And then the city would be able to maintain and update it itself.
Right.
Well, we currently maintain and update it. I mean, we don't currently do like software updates. That's something that we rely on a third party for. And that's something that we would continue to need to rely on a third party for.
It would still be hosted, because I like having it hosted off-site. One thing we learned during the tornado was it was troublesome to have it hosted in the city, because when they were down, we were down, and so having CISA hosted these past 4 years has been good. I mean, there's only been a few times when CISA's had issues or Lansing's had a power, it's been rare that there's been an issue with that. So I think in the new way, we would continue some sort of arrangement, and hopefully it would be maybe a little bit more cloud-based where it was ongoing software updates, not here's this and that's it. Like with BSNA, for example. Our finance software, they're constantly updated, sometimes weekly, it seems, updating that software as they find things, and that's, I think, just the way of the future is that you have that sort of cloud-based subscription to things, and it's updated all the time so that you're staying current. But all the day-to-day calendar items and news items and all of that, uploading the packets and videos or whatever, that's all staff.
Yeah, the documentation and information has to be all us. But then if they were to transition over to a new format, just for their sake, then the assumption is that they would take us along with them to an updated format.
So it's staying current.
Thank you.
Ms. Fisher?
Having served on the first committee, I want it to be easy for you folks to use. I don't want you to sit around spending a half a day trying to figure out what to do. I want you to get something that is easy to use, compatible from department to department, that you can make the most of.
And we appreciate that. And that's something that we wanted to take into consideration this time around too, is something that has a very simple and straightforward content management system that's easy for all of us to maintain, because I mean, none of us are HTML experts as much as I wish I were.
I'll just say, I mentioned to Justin before the meeting that I thought the document was put together very well. Thank you.
Yeah, and, we'll still go through interviews and all that. It's just, this would help us with some general, it'd be interesting to see how many responses we get.
It will be, yeah.
Should be a ton.
I think it'll probably be quite a few.
Yeah.
Whether or not all of those have,
Right.
Governmental experience and whether or not their content management system is straightforward. That's to be seen.
It's kind of nice to do it the second time, just because we learned a lot from the first time. It's like, and from the past 4 years of using it, we know kind of the things we wish we could do or what it's hard to do and easy to do.
It's hard to pick a color.
Unfortunately, we don't have to mess with any of that.
It's already done, right?
Right. We don't need to change names, schemes,
Should have
Just
matched
make
the
it-
high school though.
Match the visitors guide.
Don't do that. You have that. Don't go
Yeah,
there.
right.
Don't say it again.
You're gonna give people palpitations.
Okay, Justin, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Council comments this evening, starting with Mr. Cousins.
Not this evening, thank you.
Mr. Tell.
No, thank you.
Ms. Fisher?
No thanks.
Ms. Jones, anything?
Just one little thing, I want to thank Dan on what I caught this afternoon, I called him because we had an issue at the museum with some water. And I knew it wasn't the city's fault or anything, but just looking for a little advice. And it probably wasn't more than 10, 15 minutes. He appeared at my door and he had looked at it and gave us maybe, hopefully a solution that doesn't cost us any money. So
Well
we really
done.
appreciate it. Good service.
Mr. Smith? Ms. Knight?
Pass.
Okay. We're back around and non-arranged?
Just wanted to clarify a couple things. The labor involved is also pretty simple. It takes about 2 minutes to set up. I can run in here right before the meeting, as you've seen me do a couple times. And at night, it's a simple minute of trimming and exporting the video, and it can be up on YouTube that evening. And once you have a video camera, I imagine there's events like the Putnam historical signs that will be going up that would be nice to videotape for just the city's purposes, and it will have many uses beyond just the council.
Thank you. Okay, we have on the agenda closed session for the potential purchase of property in accordance with MCL 15.268, Section 8. So we still need that? Is there a motion to go in?
I'll make it.
Okay, moved by Cousins,
I'll second.
second by Knight, thank you. Okay, let's vote to go in, and then we can clear the room, please.
8:24.
8:25, okay. 8:24.
Tell,
Yes.
Michelle's,
Yes.
Knight,
Yeah.
Cousins.
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Keo.
No. Okay, so we're in closed session.